All right. So we will get started. I think we've got everyone that we're going to have. Again, thank you all so much for coming to our Study Abroad Peer Ambassador or Study Abroad Returnee panel event. We've been doing this now for a couple of years, and we found it to be really, really helpful for students that are about to go abroad. So I'll just briefly introduce myself. My name is Ben Briggs. I'm a Study Abroad advisor here at UNC Chapel Hill. I've been with the office for about 4.5, going on 5 years now. Some of you know me, some of you are my students, and I'm very happy to have you here. Derek?
Yeah, hey everybody, thanks for coming. My name is Derek Shepard. I'm study abroad advisor, similar to Ben. Some of you, I recognize some names here that are in my region. I advise for Asia, Africa, Middle East, Scandinavia, and domestic programs. Go
Awesome.
for it, Ben.
Thank you, Derek. To just briefly start off before we get into some of the questions for our panelists, I would love to have them introduce themselves. So I'll just go right down the line. Samara, do you mind starting? Tell us your name and your program and anything else you want to share.
Yeah, absolutely. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Samara Perez. I studied in Bilbao, Spain in the summer of 2021. And there we pretty much focused on Spanish and Spanish culture and literature.
Emily?
Hi, my name is Emily. I studied in Seoul, South Korea for a year. I did 2 semesters at Seoul National and then 1 semester at Yonsei. And I mostly focused on language and just major basic courses.
Thank you. Jenny?
Hi, everybody. My name is Jenny. I studied in the spring of 2021 at CYA in Athens, and was focused mostly on history classes, but was able to also get some engagement with the medical community there because I'm pre-med.
Awesome. Thanks, Jenny. And Maya, last but not least.
Hi guys, I'm Maya. I'm a junior studying computer science. I went to Danish Institute of Study Abroad last summer, and I was there for the entire summer. I took 1 computer science class and then 1 history class.
Perfect. Well, thank you all for coming. Really, really appreciate it. So the way this is going to go today is very simple. Derek and I have a couple of questions for our panelists. So we'll ask a couple of those questions, and then we really want to just open it up to all of the students that we've got here. We've got almost 40 students in this, so I think we've definitely got some questions that are worth asking. But just to kind of start everyone off with, a nice softball that everyone can answer, and I would love it if everyone does answer this one. What goals did you set for your experience, and how did you accomplish them? So for this first question, I think I would love to hear from everyone. And Maya, do you mind if I start with you?
Yeah, so I think I had a couple different goals. Definitely academically, I was just looking to kind of learn in a new environment and like learn kind of just based on the location I was in. So I was in Copenhagen, and they actually have like a lot of really cool resources and innovation in computer science, which is my major. So I was really hoping to like learn and explore how like the software engineering space is kind of there, which I was able to do through the class and my professors. And just also just kind of like global immersion, which is maybe a little bit basic, but was a really big goal for me, just kind of learning how people live there, meeting locals there, and just like living like a local.
Not basic at all. Global immersion is what it's all about. I mean, studying is great and all. The class is fine, but I mean, there's a lot more to the experience. So I appreciate that. Jenny, how about you?
Yeah, so I originally was planning to go to Spain because being a bilingual provider is really important to me. But when that program fell through due to the pandemic, I was really excited to switch to Greece. And upon getting there, I was able to formulate my goals when I arrived, which I think is something really cool to do if your plans do shift from what you might expect. And while I was there, I was really focused on making the most out of being there when there were very few people around and getting to see as many sites as possible. I was on the Parthenon with like 2 other people, which is unheard of. Usually it's super, super crowded. So that was one priority for me. And then another priority for me was learning how public health changes based on the country that you're in, and how I could take some of those lessons that I learned in Greece, which has a very different healthcare system than here, and bring it back to my education in America.
Right on. That's fascinating. So tell me, how did you get to the Parthenon with just 2 other people? How does that work?
Yeah, so it opened at 8 a.m. And I got there like right when they were opening the gates, and there's like an upper entrance and a lower entrance. And I came in on the upper entrance. And so it was before all the lower entrance people had made their way up to the top. And it was just me and like two other guys. And we walked in and there was just nobody there. It was insane. It felt like a private tour, but it was just really
Nice.
early in the morning.
Cool. Well, that's a pro tip for all of our CYA students this summer. So thanks,
Yeah.
Jenny. Emily, how about you?
So one of my goals while studying abroad was mostly to just adapt and try to live as immersed in the culture as I could, while being aware of like the global issues as well. And so I would randomly bus hop through different areas and kind of it was kind of risky a little bit, but I kind of had no plan. I tried to immerse myself more by asking people for help or if I need help, kind of just going about and kind of just trying to kind of fit in with the locals, but not fit in with the locals at the same time. But also I made it a goal to try to learn about more of the global health risks while in Korea and see how they were dealing with COVID to then apply that to my global health research or in education in a sense, and be able to bring that back and apply it for future classes I would take here at UNC.
Awesome. I lived in Korea for a couple of years. Bus hopping sounds fun. And bus drivers, for those of you who don't know, are very strict on leaving right on time in Korea. So if you are going to bus hop, make sure you're on time. I, at one point, had a foot stuck in the door to try to hold the bus for my friend. I was able to stop the bus, but the bus driver was not happy. Samara, how about you?
Wow, you're a real friend. For me, I would like to echo the exact same thing that Emily and Maya said, that cultural immersion was the key thing for me. On a personal note, I'm very much interested in Latin America and indigenous communities here in the Americas. And so it was quite the opposite going to Spain. And so I wanted to get that background context and history to further supplement my understanding once I would be able to study abroad in other Latin American countries. And so I didn't know this while I was applying, but specifically for Bilbao, Spain, they have the second language, Euskera. It's like the same level of importance as Spanish. And so it was really interesting to see how this other native language was prioritized in addition to Spanish. And you don't see that in Latin America. You see actually quite the opposite. And so my goal was cultural immersion and understanding Spain and its history.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Derek, I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, thank you all for sharing that. As there are probably quite a few here in this chat that may be first-time international travelers. Were any of you first-time international travelers? If so, kind of how did that play out for you? What was the experience like? And even if not, maybe some words of wisdom that you might have for those that are going abroad for the first time. I'll just throw that out to anybody, any of our panelists. You can go ahead and just popcorn style, whatever.
Yeah, I'll answer that. So I was grateful that going to Bilbao in the summer wasn't my first time studying abroad. I had taken a high school trip with other students and teachers. And so that was helpful, but I very much still came across my own obstacles studying abroad by myself, like booking my own plane ticket and making sure I got to where I got and made my payments to who I had to make them. And so even if you've traveled before, unless you've traveled study abroad program, it might be different. You might be experiencing some new experiences or obstacles.
I also had studied before, not studied before, but I've traveled extensively. And I think the biggest thing is if you don't have a lot of travel experience, someone you know does have travel experience. So it's all about just asking questions. And I think especially when I was at CYA, They had great advisors that were really helpful for us when traveling around Greece, but they were also a great resource before we even got there and made it very clear how we were going to get from the airport to our apartments and what we needed to know when we were there. And I asked some of my friends who'd studied abroad before. So I think it's just really important to know when to ask for help because there's a lot of resources available. And if something's scaring you, it's probably scared someone before you who can offer you advice.
I would second that as well. I traveled internationally before, but I've traveled to Latin America. And so traveling to Asia was extremely different than traveling to Latin America. And even though my host school in Korea did not provide me as much information on how to get to the airport and how to like actually navigate through Seoul, that's because COVID restrictions were too high during quarantine. It was kind of up in the air what the government was doing at that time since it was racing as well. I kind of had to figure out how to navigate the systems myself. So I did a lot of research before going to Korea, and I would heavily recommend doing as much research as you can and being prepared for the worst case scenario by having a plan B, a C, and a D at this point, just in case. And also to carry your documents everywhere when you first arrive, because usually I was lucky that I would take my passport with me, or I would take the stamps they gave me at the airport. I know most people just threw them away, but you would need them to get a COVID test when you came out of quarantine in South Korea.
I can just add on really quick. I've also traveled before, but I think traveling to different countries, like each country is like super different. So I had never traveled to Denmark or that region before. So I would definitely make sure to like research how the airports are. Like for me, traveling into Copenhagen at that time, like the carry-on had a weight limit, which I'd never experienced before. So I had to like, that was a mess. So definitely do research on stuff like that, because also getting there and getting home could have different regulations like the US versus the country you're going to. So those are just really important things to keep in mind from the logistics standpoint.
Thank you all for sharing that. Appreciate it. Ben, you want to take the next one? Or you want me to go?
Yeah, sure. I'll take it. So study abroad is all about challenges. It could be the small daily challenges and it could be larger challenges, but I'm really curious to just hear, specific to each of your study abroad experiences, what was one challenge that you're comfortable sharing here? And how did you overcome that challenge? Popcorn style.
I think a big challenge for me was I was there in the spring, and one of the most important Jewish holidays is Passover, which is in the spring. That has like some dietary restrictions that come with it. And while CYA was really good about providing me with opportunities for me because I don't eat milk, they like had other things that I could eat. They weren't as well equipped to handle like me not being able to eat bread or grain for an entire week. And I think it was like a big challenge of trying to figure out how to celebrate that and how to make sure that I was supported in that while I was there. And I ended up reaching out to the Chabad that was there. And I'm not like a super religious person, but I do keep Passover more for like the cultural side of my heritage. And they were really helpful and got me matzah, and I had a Seder with all my friends. And so that was really cool, was getting to share that with the people that I loved and like having to make some accommodations because I was in a different country and didn't know how to find a lot of the things I would usually eat in the US. But when I communicated to our housing director that that was something I was nervous about, she went to 5 different grocery stores looking for things that I could eat and was like very plugged into helping me out. So I think kind of goes back to like taking on challenges yourself, but also knowing when to ask the local people for help because they'll probably have more of an idea how to navigate those challenges than you do.
I'll share 2 challenges I had. And one of them is similar to the one Jenny just said. I don't like to eat pork. Certain types of pork I don't like to eat. And so lo and behold, pork is kind of a big thing in Spanish dishes. So that was difficult to navigate, especially because I stayed in a like dorm / hotel looking building, and it was really nice, but the food there was very much followed like the stereotypical like cafeteria food. So that was a daily obstacle. I think I had to like personally, I just kind of Filled myself with bread because that's another thing. Spanish people really love bread. And I love bread myself. So I just kind of just ate that away. Another obstacle I had had to do with my phone. I didn't know this, but your phones are locked. That was new to me. Nobody had told me that. And so when I went abroad and I was given and I bought a SIM card thinking that I would just pop it in and be good, my phone just was like rejected, and it was like, your phone is locked. And so that was a whole ordeal, trying to call AT&T, trying to get it unlocked. At the end of the day, I didn't get unlocked. I was able to go throughout my experience not really needing it, or just using Wi-Fi, WhatsApp to get by, or being with my friends. So I wouldn't recommend that, but it might be common knowledge that your phone is locked. Unlock your phone before you leave. Unlock your phone before you leave, please. That's
Thanks for
Or-
mentioning that, Samara.
Yeah.
We try to mention that in our pre-departure, the regional ones. So I'm sorry that the advisor for here didn't mention that. We definitely talk about it in our Asia one and everything too. But I've also done that before as well, even later on when I just went to go visit Japan and I forgot about a new phone and I forgot to do that. So, but anyways, yeah, if you have any questions, ask your study abroad advisor for that. We can help.
Yeah, and do know that not all phones will be locked. I'd say most phones will be unlocked, but there definitely will be some locked phones. So just reach out to your provider, and yeah, your study abroad advisor will be here to help. Thanks for sharing, Tamara.
no worries. Thank you.
I think I had the same challenge as everybody else with the dietary restrictions. I'm actually vegetarian, so going to South Korea, it's known to be the land of chicken. I did not know that when I first picked it. So I had to try to work my way around that, and then trying to understand how the cultural differences, as they think fish is kind of as a vegetarian dish, but it's not, depending on what kind of vegetarian you are. And so I had to try to maneuver around fish oil and try my best while not being fluent in the language. But I was lucky to have friends that helped me out and gave me certain phrases, and I was able to learn a little bit more Korean to be able to say stuff. That was just one challenge I had. Another challenge was trying to figuring out the alien registration cards. I'm not sure if other study abroads had it as well, but Korea, you have to get an alien registration card if you're there for more than a semester or 3 months. And so I remember running back and forth from my dorm to the immigration office. I think crying on the bus a few times, just because it's kind of frustrating, as they don't really have a lot of English speakers. So it was hard to try to use translator to get the documents I needed. And then having my school not prepare the documents either, or I had to go through a special process where I have to order it beforehand, but they wouldn't let me know about that. And then extending your alien registration card was also an issue. But at the end of the day, I ended up just calling my Korean friends to help me as well. And so they were able to help me with that. And now I'm a little bit more well-versed to help other people as well.
I can go next. I think something that was really hard for me was not knowing that everyone in Denmark gets around riding bikes, and I'm like really bad at riding a bike. So I had to kind of figure out how to use like the buses and other types of transportation system. And I was like kind of by myself because most of my friends wanted to just like go the bike route. But I think after like a couple weeks, I kind of caught on and was able to learn it. And I think transportation, honestly, in foreign countries isn't as hard to learn as I found transportation in the US, which is kind of nice. So yeah, I think that was definitely something that I wish I knew or researched more about before I got there.
Thank you all for sharing.
Yeah, maybe just another question here too. We definitely want to open it up and give other people a chance to ask questions, so we don't want to monopolize it all, but maybe a question that's relevant to a fair amount of people here. Did your identity play a part in your study abroad experience? Whether that be, being a female or a person of color or whatever that may be, however you identify, how did that play into your experience while you were abroad? If you don't mind sharing, if you're comfortable, obviously share what you're comfortable with.
So Greece is a very male dominant country in the way that their culture is established. And it was very strange working in a hospital environment because I had an internship there and there were no women at all. Like it was just very male heavy. I was talking to the doctor that I worked for. He was like, yeah, no one trusts female doctors in Greece. Like, I guess you could be a nurse, but the nurses here aren't that great. Like, it's not the same as it is in the US. So I think it was just interesting seeing what I think used to be a much more dominant cultural identity in the US still on display in Greece, where women were not seen as being capable of the same things that men were. However, I didn't find that that personally impacted me in my experience. It was more just the knowledge that I was in a new culture and I had to adjust my expectations accordingly. It's not like I got treated differently because I was a girl trying to do different things. But had I wanted to move there and become a doctor, then maybe it would have impacted me more. So I think it's like always a fine line trying to understand another culture and also know when that culture could potentially shift to be more representative in the future, and trying to encourage that change while still maintaining the knowledge that I was a foreigner who was privileged enough to be spending, half a year in this place without trying to impose the American ideal onto that.
I'll share mine next. Mine's pretty straightforward. So I'm Hispanic, and there are also like a lot of Central and South American immigration to Spain, and so I think just seeing me, people were probably more comfortable talking to me in Spanish straight ahead. But once they talked to me long enough, they noticed that I'm not. There's something else on my American side. But I think that was it. I don't think I experienced that. That's interesting in itself, but it wasn't as much of a shock. The ability to know the language wasn't helped me in immersing myself.
All right. No worries if the rest of you don't want to answer this.
Could you repeat the question real quick? I heard like part of the question.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. So the question was, how did your identity play a part in your experience? Was your identity challenged in any way, shape, or form, or how did it play a role?
Oh, I see. I actually had a lot of my identity questioned abroad, just because most people don't really see a lot of would say like South Latin or South American Latin people going abroad, but as well as being like American at the same time. So I actually got into like maybe one or two arguments just because people were trying to tell me like what the stereotypical American was. And usually have a very definite image of what Americans are when they come to Korea. And it's kind of more on the negative side, kind of like how America's portrayed as not as smart or not the brightest people. And they're usually there for having a joy time, like in a different country, and they don't really care about regulations in this other sense. And so I kind of like had a hard time trying to blend into the culture, if that would make sense. But ultimately, you kind of find a group of people that will kind of accept who you are, and those are the people you kind of hang around with more, and they're willing to bring you into the Korean culture and like immerse you into it. Like I had a friend who actually brought me back for one of the holidays, and I spent the holidays with him, and more people were curious around my identity and not just judging it based on like what they thought I was. So I would say it was a little negative in the beginning, but once I got my foot into the door and I was able to describe it more as a respectable way, or describe who I was more respectably, it was okay.
Yeah, thank you, Emily. Really appreciate that. Derek and I do have a couple more questions, but at this point, I think I would love to take a break from listening to us and just kind of open the floor to see if anyone has any questions for our panelists. You can feel free to unmute yourself or just send a quick chat into the chat. All right, we've got a question here. Hi, I know that for my program, we have weekends free. Did you travel during the weekends? Anyone want to take that?
Sure,
I
I'll
can take
take
that
it.
one.
Oh.
Oh, sorry, Emily.
No, you can
Um,
go ahead.
So yes, we could travel during like all the weekends, and a lot of programs will give you Friday off. So you'll be able to travel for that Friday as well, which is really nice. And there's a lot of public transportation in Europe specifically. I can't speak to other countries, but Greece was really good. We were able to get out a lot. Airbnbs were really affordable. And I think usually, like I said, I traveled during COVID, so we didn't leave the country, but I got to know Greece really well. But if you do have the opportunity to leave the country, I think there's a lot of opportunity for that as well, which can be really great.
I was
Yeah,
kind of around the same lines. Sorry,
Sorry,
I
go ahead.
did kind of around the same lines. Well, it was up to me if I wanted to have weekend classes or not. So I chose not to. And I was able to travel around Korea since I wasn't able to leave Korea as well. But I'm really grateful for that as well. It's same thing. I got to really appreciate Korea more firsthand. I got to see the smaller aspects of Korea. I went to cities that most people don't travel to. So it was really helpful in a sense to just have the weekends to just travel, but also I would have to plan around my schoolwork as well.
Great, thank you so much. And thank you to Jenny. She did have to head out a little bit early, but we really appreciate it. And Lauren, thank you so much for that question. Michael also has another question for us. What was the transfer credit process like? And did you have any issues when you came home?
I can speak on this one a little bit. So I went to DIS, which like is pretty well established connection with UNC. So there's like a portal that has like a list of all the previous courses that like students have taken from like the partner universities. So you can see if like some of the classes you're taking already have equivalency, but there's also like a form that you can fill out. Basically, if you want to take a class that doesn't have that credit, but you think it lines up with the class that UNC has, or it could fulfill a gen ed, there's like a petition form, which probably the advisors know more about, but it was a pretty simple and easy process for me. I like filled out those forms because both the classes I took didn't have equivalencies before I went, and I got them approved. So I don't even think I had to do anything. Like they submitted my transcript back to UNC and it just showed up in Connect Carolina shortly after the summer.
Um, for me, it was also pretty easy. I think Deusto and also UNC were pretty much took the lead on that, and so I just came back and saw that two minor requirements were fulfilled, and so I was pretty stoked about that. Before I went abroad, I looked up Deusto's website, and they had all the summer courses they offered. But of course, because it was summer 2021, they emailed with a much more narrow list available. And so my classes were really small. In fact, it was just the 4 study abroad students. So we got a really, really intimate experience. But yeah, I think the institutions work together to help make that as easy as possible.
Awesome, thank you. And yeah, just kind of speaking to credits, and maybe Derek wants to say something here as well. One big thing for me is to really tell students not to freak out if you don't see those direct equivalencies. As a reminder, if you get a C or better, the credit will come back at a minimum as general elective. We're still building that database, so we don't have thousands and thousands of pre-approved courses, but it's still possible to get all sorts of credits. Derek, anything you'd like to add there?
I was just going to say, great point from everybody too. There is information in your Heals Abroad, Study Abroad portal on kind of credit transfer next steps. You probably received a lot of messages from us about that too. So a lot of instructions in there, and you can start that process. You should be able to start that process now, or once you have syllabus for your classes too. And you can start it. You can do it during when you're abroad, or even when you come back. But I think we usually recommend to start that off early. So
yeah, thanks, Derek.
Yeah.
On to Daniel's question. So this is pretty specific for London. I'll address it really quickly and then maybe see if anyone has anything to add about their transport to class. So Daniel, for your program in London, primarily you'll be walking. It'll be like a long walk to class, but there will be public transport available as well. So it really depends on exactly what accommodation you're living in and where your classroom is, but most students will have it be a long walk or using public transit. And in terms of when you'll move in for your summer program, that's really important to confirm with your host institution. So that information should come directly from them, and they should indicate what day you'd be able to move in and what day you should be moving out as well. It looks like our next question is for Emily. How was it to book the flight to Seoul, and what were some things you wish you knew beforehand?
So booking the trip, I would say it was kind of complicated in the beginning. I definitely would not recommend buying through a third-party website to book your flight like Expedia, just because there's a lot of cancellations that can happen currently, especially with the regulations being up in the air still for COVID. I think the numbers are large nowadays. I would recommend purchasing directly through an airline. I actually, 2 days before my flight, I think, or a week or 2 days before my flight, I flew in on Air Canada, but it turns out they changed my layover to be a 15-hour layover in Canada. But then it turns out since I'm a US citizen, I couldn't stay overnight and I would have to leave the airport, and they didn't allow that for flights going internationally. So they then rerouted me, and it was going to be like a 4-day trip to Seoul, just flying. And so then I bought Korean Airlines. I think they were a whole lot better. So if you had to buy tickets, I would just say book directly through an airline. Never go through Expedia. You never know what kind of problems are going to happen. And to always try to plan ahead and make sure you're keeping on top of your flight as well. And some things I would have known before going to Seoul specifically, it's just a little bit more of the language in terms of airport language. Although it's an international airport and they do speak a lot of English in the airport, a lot of the staff direction you in Korean, and they don't necessarily point, so you kind of just have to guess and choose numbers that they lead you to. So I would just say to pick up a little bit more Korean in terms of like how to get to your place you're going to stay, airport phrases maybe, and then also know which taxi system or SIM card you're going to get beforehand, so you can plan around that since you land.
Great. Thank you so much, Emily, for answering that question. Does anyone else have any other questions they'd like to ask our panelists? All right, so we got a question from Lucas here. I know I read somewhere that it is recommended to travel after the program instead of beforehand if you're interested in traveling around Europe. Could someone speak on why that is? And I would also have a couple things to say about that after our panelists. And if our panelists have nothing to say, I'm happy to just take it. It looks like maybe I'll just take it. So Lucas, it can, when you are on your program, often domestic travel is encouraged. But if you're going for, a couple of days out of the country or a longer time out of the country, that can be really disruptive during the summer program, just because you often have it as such a concentrated program. So for me, honestly, I don't say definitely after, I say before or after. If students wish to arrive beforehand and complete international travel, that's great. And if they want to do it afterward, that's great as well. Again, domestic travel in country during your program will likely be totally fine. But I would save the larger, trips where you're leaving the country for before or after the program. Derek or any of our panelists, do you have anything to add to that?
I might just add on a little bit of logistics here. Not everybody that's in this chat will be covered by GeoBlue insurance. You might, if you're doing a partner provider or something else, then you maybe have some different insurance. But if you are covered by GeoBlue and going abroad, you can extend that coverage on the front end. I think it's up to 30 days, and then on the end of your program, the back end up to 30 days. So, that's why it's important if you want to go ahead of time. We just kind of have the program dates for GeoBlue for your insurance during your program time. So if you are planning to like I said, go early or stay later, talk to your study abroad advisor. We can provide you information on how to do that. GeoBlue, if you are covered by that, is something you want to do. GeoBlue just covers you internationally as well. So just keep that in mind.
Thanks, Derek. We've got a question from Ruby here, pretty similar to the one that was asked for Emily. And I'm just curious if anyone else on our panel has any other flight tips I know Emily had some really great ones for specifically for booking to Seoul, but anyone else have any airline tips?
I personally like they made a group me for like people who are living in my area with TIS. So I just kind of asked what everyone's like, thoughts were on it because I was a little bit later when I booked it. So I just tried to get on a flight that other students would be on so I could like be with other people and didn't show up at the airport by myself. And then obviously looking for cheaper flights, but that was really all I considered.
And let me just add to that, those are great. Thanks for sharing that, Maya. Well, when you have your regional pre-departures, if you are having your regional pre-departures, at least in my region, you'll get to meet with some students that are there right now or that have been abroad, and you'll be able to kind of form that kind of group me, or in Emily's case, like Kakao in South Korea. So you'll get a chance to kind of hopefully tap into a network there or create one with other students that are going abroad. So don't freak out about it right now. We can put you in touch with folks that are going to be going abroad in your location.
Thanks, Derek. Looks like we've got a question from Lauren. That would be great for Samara. She's asking about weekend travel in Spain and what you would recommend.
That is a good question. I personally did not weekend travel just because the restrictions were really kind of strict or just kind of questionable. This was summer 2021. And so our like the office of Deusto kind of did not suggest for it, because there was no way to certainly say that you would be like able to come in. We had 1 day trip to France, and that in itself was pretty questionable. I could see like the Deusto office people making sure that we had our passport, our acceptance letter for the program, just because they were worried about all the restrictions to come in. But I'm interested to see what that would be like this summer. Hopefully there are less restrictions on it and we can travel. But there are also a lot of awesome sites to do within Spain itself, like Madrid or Sevilla or Barcelona, Zaragoza. So I would have to say about that.
Yeah, and I would just add that it really depends on how ambitious you are. Spain is a really large country, so if you've got something 3 hours away, a train could be perfect. But if you're looking to go from the Basque Country down to Sevilla and try to make that a weekend trip, that could be really ambitious, and you might need to fly if you're going to do that. So it really depends on what you're looking at, and I would just say check out Google Maps before you kind of build those plans, because things can be a little bit closer or a little bit further than you thought. Looks like we've got a question from Michael here. Any tips on international banking or getting a travel credit card?
I would highly recommend getting the exchange fee travel credit card, or I'm not sure what they're called, but they don't have the transaction fees. I know Bank of America has a travel rewards card. I only used that card. It was probably the best choice I made. I know friends who only were there in South Korea for the summer, and they ended up paying a lot of transaction fees just because they didn't get a credit card that had non-transaction fees. And I also did make a bank account in South Korea as well, because I know a lot of people do have to do bank transfers as well. And so instead of Venmo, I think Europe as well has it that you only bank transfer, you don't really use apps. And so it was helpful when I had to pay people back, and also having my own bank card was beneficial when I had to buy flight tickets or bus or train tickets or anything of that sort, because they only take Korean credit cards for some sites.
Yeah, I'll just pop in to say Capital One is really great. Those are no fee cards, so look at Capital One. You can get them very easily. Charles Schwab, you can take money out for no fees abroad at any ATM in the world. So if you or your parents have a Charles Schwab account, that could also be a really good option. Derek, anything from your end that you'd like to add?
No, I think that's it. Other than make sure to contact your credit card companies or your bank before you go abroad to let them know. Otherwise, when you get over there and try to pull money from an ATM, you could find that your card is canceled. So just similar to unlocking your phone before you go, make sure you contact your banks so that they know where you're going to be.
Perfect. Exactly. We've got a question here from Meredith. How soon do classes start after a given start date? Meredith, that totally depends. I know you're doing science in Dublin this summer. So for you, you'll probably start classes about 4 days after you get there. In some cases, it could be a little longer than that. And in some cases, you'll start classes maybe 2 days after you get there. So it really does depend on the program. But for you, you'll probably be starting classes about 4 days after you get there. Any other questions for our panelists? All right, Meredith, one more. For my program, is there a way to find where I will be living? Meredith, we're going to talk about that at the pre-departure event. So yeah, we'll get into that when we have our pre-departure event in a couple of weeks.
Quick question
Teresa.
from Teresa.
Yeah, go ahead, Derek.
Yeah, I was just saying a quick question about flights. Should we book a round trip flight? I'll just say that some places that actually require, some countries actually require you to kind of book a round trip flight. But what about you all, the panelists? Any recommendations there?
I would recommend round trip just because, at least for South Korea, I know I was looking at flight tickets to go back this summer as well. I think currently they're like 1,500 for just round trip, and then one way is like $1,000. So there's really not much difference. And so if you buy them separately, you risk chance of it having to be cost more. So I would just do a round trip, and you can always change your date for the returning flight if you choose to. But just to be reassuring to that you have something secure, especially if prices decide to go up when you plan to book your second ticket.
I actually did not book a round trip just because my program dates were like, they were not completely set in stone. Like I didn't know when my class was ending, and like I had heard in the group meeting that some people were going to Iceland after the trip, so I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I unfortunately actually ended up getting really sick like in the last week of school. So I just booked a flight home early. Like I came back in 3 or 4 days before my program ended. But I think if for convenience sake, like if you're able to kind of have that flexibility, then maybe do like 2 one ways, or if you can like move your round trip, that's nice, especially if you want to like be able to travel after, or if there's some uncertainties. But if you know exactly like when you want to leave and come, then I don't think it would make a difference. But yeah.
All right. So there still is time for other questions, but I will just say from Derek and I's end, we would love to wrap up with just one more question, maybe as students consider their own final question. And that is, what is one piece of advice that you would give the students that are here today about their study abroad experience? It could be really specific, really general. One thing you'd like to share.
I would kind of say just like talk to as many people as you can when you're there. Like people, I feel like are more sympathetic to foreigners. So like if you need help, or if you're just like trying to learn more, like just always kind of like have a smiling face and be, or it's like, I guess it's kind of hard to just approach strangers, but kind of put yourself out there and just kind of break out of your comfort zone. Cause like I met a lot of really cool people just like at cafes and restaurants with friends, and people, like I said, like if they know that you're from abroad, like they will give you their advice and love to learn more about your life. So I think that can make the experience a lot more enriching, just putting yourself out there and just talking to people, obviously in a safe manner. But yeah.
Mine is similar along the same lines as mine. I would say yes to as many things as you can. I would get invited to like a lot of events with friends, and in the beginning I was a bit wary just because I was in a different country. But when I realized that if I just said yes to more things, I interacted with more people, I got to step out of my comfort zone a lot, and I would try a lot of things I would have never thought I would get to try. And since I'm a little bit more of an introverted person, just saying yes to like meeting with people to get coffee or anything of that sort really helped me, and it helped me learn the language more and be able to interact with locals. And I think one of the best experiences I had of saying yes was during hiking. Specifically, just like an old lady group or Ajumma group that was hiking ended up adopting me into their hiking group, and they ended up feeding me, and it was one of the best conversations I had with them, even though I was a bit wary to go hiking with them, but it was a good experience.
the same thing as what they've said. Be open to as many new experiences as you can, because this is kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity, with also keeping precautions in mind. And just another small tip is just to prepare as much as you can beforehand, like make sure all the logistics of your travel are grounded, just so like it doesn't impede your experience while you're there, because that's what ended up happening for me, unfortunately, with making sure like house payments is done, making sure your phone is unlocked, making sure your bank is aware of your travel, just a whole bunch of logistics that I'm sure will come up in pre-departure, but just make sure that that's all. And while you're there, you can say yes to as many things as you can, and enjoy it.
Awesome. Thank you. And yeah, it's okay to make mistakes and, get out of your comfort zone, and that's how you learn. And usually you have a fun story afterwards anyways. Thank you so much to the panelists. Any final questions from students before we kind of wrap it up? Awesome. Well, Maya, Emily, Samara, thank you all so much for chatting and sharing about your experiences and answering questions. And thank you all for attending. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Have a great one.
Bye, everyone. Thanks.